Welcome back to Everyone Who's watching Mamargo Gasawi TV. You're going to be with me, Princess Mugisha. Let's start with the news headlines. Social development is a continuous journey that requires adaptability, said by President Paul Kagame at the Second World Summit for the Social Development that was taking place in Doha, Qatar. New 60 billion Rwandan francs refined petroleum has deployed to boost Rwanda's energy security. On the international scene, thousands in overcrowded Gaza shelters amid Israel shelling. Let's take a short break to be back into the news details. Welcome back onto the news details, and let's start on news in Rwanda, where social development is a continuous journey that requires adaptability, said by President Paul Kagame at the Second World Summit for the Social Development that takes place in Doha, Qatar.
30 years since Copenhagen, significant progress has been made. We have seen successful efforts to reduce extreme poverty and expand access to education, healthcare, and social protection. However, inequalities still persist, especially between regions, with millions of people still struggling to make ends meet. These challenges are not new, but our governance systems have not evolved fast enough to solve them. Social development is a continuous journey that requires adaptability. Right now, the priority is to keep the pendulum swinging in the right direction and build on what has already been achieved.
To our next story, today at the National Council for Science and Technology has begun the dismantling of the Rwanda Innovation Survey of 2022-2024 report, showing that 89% of the higher learning institutions are innovation active, strong signal from the education sector and research, new service and tech transfer. The Minister of Education, Joseph Nsengimana, co-chair of the NCT Council, is a guest of honor in the session and speaking at the launch of the Rwanda Innovation Survey of 2022-2024 report. The Minister of Education, Joseph Nsengimana, reminded that Rwanda's innovation ecosystem is growing and also there must tackle investment, skill gaps where they're working more closely across the government, academia, and the industry. Turning to our next story, Rwanda is set to strengthen its energy security with a new 60 Rwandan francs billion liquefied petroleum gas storage depot in Rusororo, Gasawi district, scheduled for full commissioning in 2026. The facility being developed by Societe Petroleum will stop at 9,000 tons of RPG, enough to meet the country's cooking gas needs to around 2 months. It includes daily use of tanks already in place and large long-term storage shaped spheres currently under construction. Speaking to the New Times, SP Managing Director Claudia said the depot will not only serve the ACP, but also allow the government and other energy players to maintain strategic reserves, helping ensure supply continuity and market stability. The project has been cost-raised from the original 38 billion to equipment upgrades. It is expected to enter the temporary operation phase in January 2026 before full commissioning in July. Currently, Rwanda imports all its LPG and only a small fraction of the households use gas for cooking. The new depot is expected to stabilize supply, reduce price fluctuation, and support future growth in domestic LPG market while laying groundwork for the Rwanda's transition to cleaner energy sources. Let's take a short break to be back into the international news.
ariko se reka nkubaze koko reko ntabwo koko unsize mu buriri uragiye urakarabye wambaye neza urajuje kwigunganganga umuntu nta kintu azongera kubona n'ubu wababajwe n'iki koko
ubu se nakwishima gute abandi bafite imiryango hariya muri mike y'ubucuru
ariko se iyo urimo kuvuga ngo mike uza ahantu mike mu mujyi rwagati we nawe urashakamo umuryango
guhera kuri miliyoni 20 urabona umuryango w'ubucuruzi hariya muri mike nta nubwo noneho ari n'umuryango w'ubucuruzi gusa dore hari amabiro hari aparitoma icyo ushaka uwakunze bahita baguhereza ibyangombwa yewe nayo ibiyayi barahita bayiguhereza byaratangiye ubu ngubu bamwe batangiye kujya gusura
nshokamo inkweto tugende gusura
nshokamo inkweto tugenda aho gusura rero
Let's take a look into the international news where the constant Israeli air shelling witnessed in southern Gaza, where the farms and the houses being destroyed in the eastern parts of the Gaza City, report says on the ground. Sandra Tumokund proceeds.
This is the international news in Africa. Guinea's military leader Mamadi Doumbouya will stand as a candidate in the country's first presidential elections since he seized power in a coup in 2021. The general handed in his document at the Supreme Court on Monday, the last day for submitting candidates in the 28th December polls that are meant to restore construction order, despite the promises when he seized power that he would not run a new constitution submitted by the junta and approved in September. Referendum opened the door for him to do so. It also requires presidential candidates to live in Guinea and be between 40 and 80 years old. The forces vast coalition of opposition political parties and citizen movements have denounced Doumbouya's decision to stand. Under his rule, the junta has cracked down on dissent, including attempting to mobilize people to support returning to democratic rule. It has also criticized for suspending media outlets, restricting internet access, and brutally suppressing demonstration. While about 10 other candidates have submitted their application, two of biggest opposition parties, LPG, ARC, ACL, and UFDG, have been excluded from the contest, raising concern about its credibility. The Supreme Court will now examine the validity of the applications and publish the official list of candidates by 13 November. Turning to our next story, a worker was trapped after part of a medieval tower collapsed in the heart of Rome has died, according to hospital officials. The Rome prosecutor's office has opened an investigation into the incident. Part of the structure collapsed on Monday, and efforts to rescue destroyees were interrupted when a second section of the 29-meter high tower began crumbling again about 90 minutes later as bricks rained down, creating a huge cloud of dust. One fighter was taken to hospital with an eye problem, according to Italian reports, but the rest were unharmed, eventually resuming their search for the man. A police chief said there was no imminent danger that the tower would disintegrate. Another worker, 67 years old, Ottavian, who was inside at the time of the collapse but escaped from a balcony uninjured, told the AFP news agency it was not safe. Rome's mayor and Italia's culture ministry visited the scene. The 30th century tower was built by Pope Innocent III as a residence for his brother. It is separated from the main visitors area of the Rome Forum by road. The streets all around have been tapped off by policy as precaution. Concluding our international news, Israel is holding a record 360 Palestinian children from the occupied West Bank in its prison, many without charge or trial, in what right group calls system of control and abuse. Families say the detention marked by torture and to crush Palestinian. Israeli sailors have attacked Palestinian olive pickers south of Bethlehem in the occupied West Bank, Wafa news agency is reporting. A family was attacked as it it was heading to its olive groves west of the town of Al-Qadda. A man said he was punctured and hit by the seller, who also detained his wife and daughter and forced the family at gunpoint to leave the area. The man said the family was fled, pursued by the seller and Israeli forces as they left. The family was also threatened with an arrest if it returned to the land. The attack is the latest incident in a wave of violence by Israeli sellers targeting the Palestinian olive harvest in the occupied West Bank. Israeli Foreign Minister Gideon Saar has reiterated his country's commitment to strengthening ties with India, saying its goal is to build the long-term strategic partnership with New Delhi. The Trump administration's proposal for an international stabilization force to operate in Gaza under Phase 2 of the US-backed ceasefire are likely to face significant challenges, says Mohamed El-Masri, a professor at the Doha Institute for Graduate Students.
As we come to the news edition today, let's go back with the news headlines. Social development is a continuous journey that requires adaptability, said by President Kagame at the Second World Summit for the Social Development that took place in Doha, Qatar. 60 billion Rwandan francs required petroleum gas to deport to boost Rwanda's energy security. On the international scene, thousands in the overcrowded Gaza shelters and amid Israel shaving. Thanks for having me. Stay tuned.